Advocacies play a huge role in raising awareness about vital issues that the public should be mindful of. In the area of mental health, there are advocates for wellness who are willing to lend their voices to speak about concerns regarding our well-being. By spreading awareness, we empower those struggling with their mental health and show them that they are not alone, that they have someone to support them, by their side, in the media, or even in policy-making bodies of the government.
Daming mga factors that can influence yung success ng isang advocacy. Pero sa tingin ko, yung mga factors that can be influenced by groups, no, like us, mga advocates tayo, syempre yung first na mindset siguro natin is that we cannot do it alone. So definitely, yung mga successful advocacies, they involve a lot of people, different organizations even at certain times. And I think, no, importante doon sa mga grupong yon na meron tayong shared na assessment of the current situation. So kumbaga, importante malaman natin ano yung landscape of the advocacy that we're working on, whether it be political, whether it be economic, or even social issues, no, that can influence your advocacy. Tapos pangalawa, kailangan natin maintindihan sino yung iba't ibang stakeholders, no? So, syempre pag binap out natin yung stakeholders, hindi lang yan yung mga supportive of our advocacy, no? So sometimes we also need to map out sino ba yung mga most likely to oppose our advocacy and sino yung mga neutral about it, no? Or yung kailangan pa natin i-convince, no, to join our cause. So pag nakita natin yung landscape as well as the actions of the different social actors in a specific advocacy, mas madali, no, for us to identify what our niche is. Starting the Youth for Mental Health Coalition, nakita namin na wala masyadong mga organized young people who lobby for the mental health law. So doon kami nag-focus dun sa policy development, and at the same time we also looked at the importance of education. So syempre before you even initiate a policy or a discussion about a program, importante naiintindihan ng mga tao na ano yung dahilan kung bakit pinupush yung advocacy na yan. So I think very important yung pagkakaroon ng clear purpose so that you can also have measurable na mga milestones later on. Siguro lastly, one of the things na lagi kong sinasabi sa mga advocates is that you have to be really persistent, no, when it comes to pushing for your advocacy. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga transformations na gusto natin makita in our society will be seen, no, in a very concrete manner. Or sometimes, parang it takes decades, no, before we start seeing change. Marami ring mga possible indicators tayong pwedeng i-take note, no. Of course, yung pinaka siguro masasabi kong very direct na indicator of a successful advocacy would be its impact, diba? So did your advocacy birth policy change? Did it result to institutionalization of certain reforms na dati ginagawa natin at the local level, ngayon naging national-wide na yung isang advocacy? So we're also talking about scale, no, ng implementation ng mga reforms na gusto natin. Did it also cause behavioral change, no, at the level of the institution, at the level of the individual? Kasi kahit yung mga maliliit na mga changes in terms of perception, in terms of attitude, napakalaking impact nila, no, to the different elements ng isang advocacy. And second, siguro yung hindi masyadong obvious na gains, no, when it comes to advocacy work is yung pagkakaroon ng spaces where we can consolidate different groups, no. So it's a question of do we actually build more communities, no? Do we deepen yung empathy ng mga tao? And I think that's very crucial for us advocates, no? I've always defined advocacy work as the constant process of deepening your empathy. And then yung empathy na yon can actually be your seeds, no, for actions na rooted on solidarity work. And of course, yung advocacy natin, siguro it also should challenge the existing power dynamics, no? Kasi syempre, yung advocacy natin, inherently political lahat ng mga advocacies, right? So tingin ko, kung hindi natin na-empower, no, yung mga marginalized communities, then we're not doing effective advocacy work. So yung advocacy work should actually challenge the status quo. Most of those who create content do actually have good intentions, no, in terms of sharing about mental health, di ba? trying to contribute dun sa pag-decrease ng stigma in our communities. So I think all of them are coming from a good place. Pero syempre iniisip ko rin na minsan pag hindi na guide or walang access to information yung mga content creators natin, then it can actually have unintended consequences, diba? Kami parang in our organization, we work with the World Health Organization para mag-develop ng media guide for people engaged in reporting on suicide and other mental health related issues. And yung isa sa mga nakita namin doon is that may mga do's and don'ts tayo yung pwedeng i-consider. So for example, when we talk about creating your content, I think important na ma-recognize na ng mga content creators na may certain level of vulnerability to sharing misinformation, lalo na kung magre-rely ka lang sa mga online sources. Of course, as a content creator, diba, you do your research, diba? You cite multiple sources, you review a wide range of reliable articles. Pero sa tingin ko, malaking tulong rin talaga kung meron kang isang mental health professional who can vet kung ano yung content that you would share. So, it's not a requirement. Of course, ano naman tayo, social media naman tayo, we're free to express kung ano yung gusto nating i-share on social media. But yung additional task of vetting your content would actually help and make it more credible in the long term. Second is, marami kasing mga shortcuts ngayon when it comes to mental health. Like for example, may mga nakita akong content na if you do this, then ito yung mangyayari, di ba? Pero we know that mental health is a very complex topic. So I think important na ma-highlight natin yung mga nuances na yan, and we don't fall into the trap of simplifying or oversimplifying yung mga concepts of mental health. So kailangan ma-recognize yung iba't ibang mga biological, psychological, or even social factors that can influence the mental health or mental illness of a person. And minsan kasi yung mga feel-good statements, di ba? May mga ganon, nagbo-border na sila on toxic positivity. So, in those situations, we have to also recognize na baka yung mga ganong mga statements may also cause feelings of invalidation sa ibang mga young people. And then, of course, it would also help kung merong mga sources where people can actually seek support, di ba? So, kunwari, sa mga news articles, we've always been very supportive dun sa pagkakaroon ng mga contact details where to seek support just in case that you're feeling these symptoms. And then, of course, trigger warnings are also very important. So if you're talking about sensitive issues like gender-based violence, yung mga ganong mga issues, or suicide, then it's important to put them visibly before people even consume content. Kasi minsan, pag hindi na-filter yung information, especially if a person is already feeling down or feeling in distress, then it might add to the emotional distress that they're already experiencing. And then of course, since yung usapin ng mental health is a very personal na topic for most of us, I think it's important na meron tayong conscious yung mga content creators natin in terms of observing privacy and confidentiality. So even in our law, merong mga restrictions doon. Of course, merong mga exemptions, but generally, we have to observe yung privacy and confidentiality of individuals that we're talking about. I think a large chunk of advocacy work should be sustained by the civil society organizations themselves. Yung mga student organizations, yung mga non-government organizations natin, and even the people's organizations, yung mga tao na nasa community who recognize na kailangan nila at relevant sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na buhay yung advocacy na to. Second, siguro na kailangan natin maintindihan na yung mga advocacies natin, whether it's health, whether it's gender-related, are not separate from the broader issues of social justice. Kailangan ma-connect natin yung issues natin with the political and the different social movements na meron tayo, because our advocacies will always be marginal. Our advocacies will always be, kumbaga, mga ano lang sila, small steps, unless we change the systemic factors na nagpupush sa mga tao to become unwell or to have less access to certain services. So yung intersectionality ng mga advocacies should be highlighted, and i-encourage natin yung mas direct na forms of participation. So tingin ko yung appreciation ng iba't ibang forms of advocacy work, whether you're outside of government, and whether you're inside government, malaking bagay yon. So kailangan nagtutulungan yon eh. So I think yung magandang mix dyan is that number one, we have progressive policy makers, kaya importante na for young people to recognize that politics is also a very important space that we need to contest in. Pangalawa is that kailangan natin ng malakas na mga civil society organizations and mass movements who can actually create the critical mass, no, para dun sa para magkaroon ng fertile ground for changes doon sa policies natin and yung mga programs. And syempre, importante rin na we also engage the people in the bureaucracy. We always talk about the elected officials, we always talk about the people outside of government, pero yung mga day-to-day na mga nagtutulak ng reforms in government, hindi natin sila nakikita as a very crucial point of reform. So tingin ko, we have to work with the bureaucracy, no matter how frustrating minsan, no, yung katagalan, no, yung inefficiency ng ating government. And siguro, important rin that we also develop second liners, no. I think yan yung isa sa mga crucial rin na ma-ensure natin to sustain the advocacy. And I think talaga, yun yung isa sa mga indicators na hindi namamatay yung advocacy pag meron kang mga nade-develop na next generation of leaders. And then of course, I think one of the realizations ko rin as an advocate is that all advocacy work should be regenerative, no? Kasi yung common misconception about activism and advocacy work is that you always give, diba? Bigay ka ng bigay sa bansa, bigay ka ng empathy sa ibang mga tao, pero if ikaw mismo hindi ka okay, no, you don't spend time to take care of yourself, you don't spend time to take care of your needs, then makaka-affect talaga yan to the kind of advocacy that you want to push for. So I remember this quote by Emma Goldman. She's one of the feminist thinkers, no, during her time. So sabi niya, if I can't dance, I don't want to be in your revolution. Of course, yung iba na yung term yung appreciation natin dun sa concept of revolution. Pero ganun pa rin, no, in any advocacy that you're pushing for, hindi pwede na nauubos ka doon sa advocacy na sinusulong.
Advocating for mental health wellness requires you to be persistent in raising awareness and celebrating the big and little victories you accomplish. It may take some time for your advocacy to get off the ground, but always keep in mind that you're doing this to help build a safe space for everyone struggling with their own mental well-being. This is Tiger TV's The Conscious Mind, reminding us to live life with serenity and that healing comes from within.